Have you always been curious about watercolor pencils but have no idea how to use them? In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to paint this Echinacea purple coneflower using watercolor pencils. All you need is some watercolor paper, a water brush or brush and water, and some watercolor pencils. So let's get started. You can download my reference photo in the link in the description below. The set I have here is by General Pencil. It's a fairly inexpensive set. I think I got it at Michael's. And so I'm just going to start with the pink pencil. I'm going to lightly draw on the petal shapes. I am using cotton watercolor paper. With watercolor pencils, even though it might feel like you're just sketching, remember that as soon as you apply the water, you need to treat it just like you would watercolor paints. And so you'll need quality paper that can handle lots of water. This reference photo is from my mom's garden. She keeps the most beautiful gardens in Wisconsin. And the purple coneflower is one of my favorites. It's just so beautiful and it's always attracting bees and butterflies. So the general shape of the coneflower is you've got these pinkish purple petals that are just drooping down from a large spherical cone shape at the top of the flower. So you'll want to vary their sizes, make some of them skinnier, some of them wider. In this case, the light is coming from behind the flower and slightly off to the left. So all of the light and shadow within your painting is going to reflect the light source. The petals in the front, because they're facing the viewer, are going to look the widest. And I'm going to have these two overlapping slightly. And they're going to be mostly in shadow. If in your reference photo you see a couple spots that are catching the light, be sure to indicate those, because remember, with watercolor you want to plan ahead for where your brightest brights are going to be so that you don't accidentally cover those up. So with the petals roughly sketched in, now I'm going to take my yellow and just do a quick stem. Again, the left side is in the light, so I'm using my yellow for the left, and on the right I'm going to use green because the stem is going to be darker on the right side as it turns into the shadow. And I'm just going to fill that in with the yellow. When you're initially sketching with watercolor pencils, especially on the rough watercolor paper surface, it can look really flimsy and it just doesn't look like much at first. But you'll be amazed, as soon as you apply the water, it just really comes to life. Using my yellow pencil again, I'm just going to quickly sketch the cone shape. I would say it's about as tall as the petals are long. Inside of the flower, you see these bright orange little bumps coming out, and so I'm going to lightly sketch those on with my orange pencil, kind of fill in that shape with orange because it's going to be in shadow anyway. And then the very center of the cone is going to be black. So I'm just using my black watercolor pencil and starting to fill in the bottom center of that round shape. Not too dark yet. We'll go in with another layer later. Now grabbing my purple pencil, and I'm going to start filling in some of the basic colors on the petals. If you want a petal to look darker in value, just apply more of your pencil, press a little bit harder with the pencil lead, and you'll end up with more of the pigment on your paper. And of course, when we add the water, that's going to pick it all up and just be much more intense in those areas where you pressed a little harder and had more pencil markings. I'm going to be switching back and forth between my pink and purple for these petals. Notice I'm not just coloring them all in completely, and that's because I want to allow some space for the water to flow so that you have some areas that are a little bit lighter as well. I avoided a little highlight on that petal in the center. And I'm pressing a little bit harder on the petals that are in the shadow. With watercolor pencils, you do have to kind of use your imagination when you're first sketching. Just imagine what it'll look like when you add the water. And be patient with the process. Just know that this part of it doesn't look great. Not yet anyway. I'm going to put a little bit of this light blue in some of the petals as well. Of course, when that blends with the pink, it'll create another purple. All right, I've got a water brush here. This is the most important tool to have on hand when you're using watercolor pencils. You can also use a regular brush and a jar of water, but this is so much handier when you're traveling and you just want to grab something and take it with you to do some sketching or documenting. So the way the water brush works, you fill the body of it with water and then you gently squeeze and it comes out the tip of the brush. Gently is the key word here. Don't squeeze too hard or you'll end up with puddles on your paper. So I'm starting and working left to right because I'm right-handed. And as I add water, you can see how it's just activating that pencil paint and it's really coming to life. So much more vibrant once the water is on there. The left side of the flower is in the light, so I'm leaving these petals fairly light, not going too pigmented with them. And this one is going to be much darker. Wow, you can really see how that color is activating with the water. The purple and the pink are suddenly so vibrant. Let's do the same thing with these petals in the center. Just very gently squeezing out a little bit of water and avoiding the highlight where it's catching the sun. And scrubbing with our wet tip of our brush to activate that paint on the surface. If you've never tried watercolor pencils, give it a try. It's so much fun. And what's really wonderful about them is they're very easy to travel with, compact and portable, and all you need is the water brush. Now you can see I do have my sketch markers next to me here, and I'm going to be using one of those today. I think that watercolor pencils lend themselves well to more of an illustrative style with pen and ink as well. And so I'm going to show you how to outline your completed drawing once it's dry with some ink. Make sure your brush is clean. You can do that by squeezing water out onto the paper towel before going into another color. So here I'm scrubbing out the yellow and you can see it's just exploding with vibrancy. So beautiful. And here's our black activating. It's not particularly dark. So something about watercolor pencils is they don't get crazy dark. If you want to go much deeper in value, this is where having some pen and ink on hand will help a lot. And then the last thing we're going to do on this layer is to paint in the stem. Now, because we did a combination of yellow and green, you can see as we add that water, it's blending together very nicely. Okay, so we're going to let this layer dry, and then we'll come back in with more pencil and just darken that up. I'm going to start with my red watercolor pencil, and I'm going to intensify some of these shadow areas in the petals. I'm taking my blue and darkening up some of the petals that are in the shadow some more. You can continue to add more and more layers like this to make your colors darker and richer. And just adding a couple little hints of black. I'm shading in as dark as possible inside of the seed pod since this is entirely in shadow. I'm also going to outline some of those little shapes inside of the seed pod where you see those seeds growing. You can go as simple or as detailed as you want here. If you want to stick with just basic values, that will look very lovely. And then I'm going back in and going richer with the orange color inside of that cone. A few more hints of pink in the petals. Remember, the harder you scrub with the pencil, the more pigment you're applying, so that when you add the water, it will be even more vibrant. All right, we're going back in with the water brush now and just going to blend in that next layer that we've just applied. You can see it's really picking up that blue and helping create an even more vibrant color in the petals. Remember that you don't need to have a water brush to use watercolor pencils. You can use any brush as long as you have some water on hand. That's all it takes to activate the pigment. And what a beautiful effect it creates. So there you can see the petals are much darker now. And as we go in and activate the black that we added, it's also getting darker. I'm just painting around some of those little seeds to indicate the bumpy texture on that cone. I'm now grabbing my Copic sketch marker. The black pen is waterproof and you can use it in combination with watercolors. And I'm just going to use the fine point of this pen to outline some of the petal shapes. With the petals that are in the light on the left side, I'm going to avoid those with the pen because I don't want it to look too illustrative or too outlined. I'm just going to outline the shadow shapes. And you can see it's really helping our flower pop against the white background. This is an especially fun and beautiful method if you like to take your sketchbook with you and do journaling when you travel. All you need is some watercolor pencils, a water brush, some paper, and a pen. I'm also going to outline that shadow side of the stem. Now, as you can see, the shadow inside of the cone is not that dark, even though we scrubbed in as much black as possible. So I am going to use the pen to darken the shadow inside of the seed pod. I'm just using a little bit of a scrubbing motion with the tip of my marker, tip of my pen, and a little bit of cross-hatching and outlining some of those seed shapes. And there you can see the seed pod is now perfectly dark. It looks beautifully backlit in the sunlight and garden ready. I'm going to go in one more time and just take my red and darken up some of those seeds with a nice vibrant red. And then add a little hint of green on the left side. And there we go. So if you've always been curious about how to use watercolor pencils, this is a fun, simple, easy project to try. Just try doing a single flower like this and you don't even have to add all these details. It's just a lot of fun and you can see I used almost every single color in my set. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on watercolor pencils and I'll see you in the next one.